I serve as a hospital chaplain in Stamford, Connecticut. One of my favorite units to go to is the pediatrics wing. One morning, as I walked in, the nurses, they said, "Laconia, we're glad you are here." I said, "Why?" And they said, "We have a 13-year-old girl, and she tried to hurt herself. We think you might be able to help her." I like kids, and I like the challenge of kids. So I went to the girl's bedroom. A 24-hour attendant was with her in the room to help keep her safe. I knocked on the door. She was sitting upright in her bed. She looked up at me. She said, "Hello." I said, "Hello." I said, "Can I come in?" And she goes, "Sure." And so I walked into her room, and there I'm sitting at the edge of the bed, and she's sitting directly in front of me. I said, "My name's Laconia, and I am a chaplain." Her response, "What's that?" "Well, I'm a minister. It's like a priest or a rabbi, but I work for the hospital." Oh. So one of the questions I always ask patients is, "Why are you here?" And her answer was, "I tried to hurt myself." I noticed the non-specificity of her answer, and I decided to leave it alone. When I work as a chaplain, I hardly ever tell stories. As a chaplain, you hear stories. But these words leapt out of my mouth. You know, in my other life outside the hospital, I am a storyteller. And I think I have a story that fits your situation, but I can't tell the story unless you give me permission. She looks at me, she goes, "Shoot." And this is a story that I told. Once there was a boy, and it was his job to take 2 water pots a half-mile down the stream. He would fill both water pots up, and then he would walk back up the stream and place the water pots on the ground. One morning he got up. He placed both water pots on his shoulders. He walked the half-mile down to the stream, and he filled the water pots up. He walked back up to the top of the hill, placed the water pots on the ground, but the water pot on the left went, and the boy said, "What's wrong?" The water pot said, "Well, you fill my brother and I up. And when we get to the top of the hill, my brother is full, but I've got a crack on my side. I am leaking. I am only half full. I am not doing my job." The boy said, "Did you see anything as you walked up along your side of the trail?" "No," said the pot. "Tell me what you see tomorrow." The next morning, he takes both water pots. He walks the half-mile down to the trail, down to the stream, and he fills the water pots. He walks back up. He places them on the ground, and the water pot on the left went, "What's wrong? I am not doing my job. I've got this crack in my side." "Did you do what I asked?" "Yes." "Did you see anything?" "Yes." "What did you see?" "Flowers and herbs." "What colors were they?" "Yellow, gold, green, mauve." And then the boy said, "You don't get it, do you?" And the crackpot said, "Get what?" He said, "I knew you had a crack in your side. And one day when you weren't looking, I went along your side of the trail and planted the herbal seeds and the flower seeds. When you weren't looking, I went along and picked up the flowers, and we put them in a vase, and I take the herbal seeds and we cook with them." And only then did the cracked pot truly understand. I noticed that the girl was just intently looking at me. And when I finished the story, she goes, "What does that story mean?" And I looked at her and I said, "My job is to tell the story. You have to figure out the story for yourself. I'm going to be here until 4 o'clock today. If you think you figured out the story, you can always have me paged. I left her room at 10:45, never expecting her to call. Around 2:30 p.m., I was paged to the pediatrics wing. I walked to her room. Not only was a 24-hour attendant with her, but her mother was in the room. I said, "You asked me to come back." And she says, "I figured out the story." Out of confidentiality, I said, "Would you like your mom to leave?" And she said, "No, I want my mom to hear this." And I said, "Okay, what does this story mean?" And she said, "That story is about me. I'm the cracked pot. And that story teaches me that I can be cracked and okay." She cried, her mother cried, and I cried. She got the story.